Come on in, pull up a chair and take a load off, because today I'll be sharing some thoughts and impressions about the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game Playtest Rulebook from Marvel. And I'll let you know what I think right after this. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. As I mentioned in the open, today I'm going to share some thoughts and impressions about the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game Playtest Rulebook from Marvel. This system is designed by Matt Forbeck, Mike Capps, and John Nee. This 120-page softcover is written by Matt Forbeck and carries an MSRP of $9.99. It's also available digitally for $9.99. So let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game Playtest Rulebook. So a few things to mention before we dive on in. First of all, this is not a review copy. So this did not come from Marvel. I actually purchased this. I ordered it from Amazon, and I received it on release day. And I happened to shoot a first look and page through video on Tuesday. So if you want to get a much better feel for what's inside this book, and you haven't watched that video, by all means, I recommend check that out first, and then you can swing back to this video to find out what I think of this playtest. Also, I'm going to say picture in picture up here. So as we take a peek through, I'll be cutting off a little bit of the upper left portion of the book. Please keep in mind, this is not a review. This is a playtest. But I do want to give you a good feel for the mechanics, what's presented in this playtest, kind of give you a feel for where I think the direction this role-playing game is going to aim at in the long run. But please keep in mind, it is not a review. Nothing here is scripted. This is all just pretty much stream of consciousness as I take a peek through this rule book. So let's jump on in. One of the first things we'll talk about are the core mechanics of the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game. So it is called the D616 system. So you're going to utilize 3 six-sided dice. So you'll have target numbers. So you're going to have, just like challenge numbers are, we have target numbers. So you're looking to meet or exceed a certain value. And by rolling your 3 six-sided dice, you're going to total these up. There are going to be some special events depending on what you roll, special benefits or negatives. But for the most part, you're always going to be totaling these up and then adding them to various different modifiers. I will point out there is a lot of math involved in this game system, much more than I thought I would see. There's actually even a recommendation to bust out your calculator in this rule book. So I was thinking that there would probably be an aim towards a more rules light sort of system. Not at all. This is going to be relatively crunchy, far crunchier than I was expecting. And I will talk about who I think this is really aimed at in just a bit, because I think there is a target audience Marvel is specifically going after, and I'm not sure how successful that's going to be. All right, so we've got the D616. So if you roll a 1 on your Marvel die, so you're going to have a different colored six-sided die. Let's see, where are we? Here we go. Kind of give you an example of the Marvel die, which my assumption is once this actually goes on sale next year, there will be sets of Marvel dice that you can purchase. So if you get the Marvel face, which is the 1, and your other dice are neither all 1s or all 6s, then what you're going to do is you're going to count this as a 6 and total this up. So this would be a 12. If they were both 6s and you get the 1 on the Marvel die, then this actually counts as an 18 plus. It's kind of a critical success. So on top of being successful, something really good is going to happen. If you happen to roll all 1s, then this is going to be a failure, and it's kind of like a critical failure. You're not going to succeed at what you're trying, and something bad is going to happen in addition to that. Now, there's also advantage and disadvantage. It's not called that in this system. It's called edge and trouble. So effectively, edge is that you're going to be able to re-roll dice beneficially. So something like if you rolled that and you had edge, the narrator, who's the game master in this case, would probably tell you, okay, re-roll your Marvel die. And whatever it came up, you would stick as. Now, if you had trouble and you rolled the good old 616, then the narrator is probably going to tell you to re-roll the Marvel die. So rather than having that bonus success, that would simply be a 16. Once again, you're always going to be adding these numbers to various different modifiers, and there is a lot going on with the various different modifiers. So we actually get rules for how to create a character in this playtest, and I thought that was very cool. I was glad to see that. I thought that was very nice, because normally with quick starts or starter sets, you don't get that character creation. That is something that I was very surprised. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to create every sort of superhero that you would find in the Marvel universe, but there are a good number of archetypes, powers, traits, professions, and so forth. So you have your attributes, or in this case, they call them abilities. And we have might, agility, resilience, vigilance, ego, and logic, which spells Marvel if you take the first letters of each. I thought that was kind of funny. And those will run anywhere from -4 to +4. And those are also going to create additional modifiers to your die rolls, as well as your ranks for power, ranks for your character. There's a lot of calculation going on. As far as like health, you're going to take your resilience, and you're going to multiply it by your rank and add it to a base number. So once again, I'm going to point this out, probably ad nauseum. There are a lot of calculations that are going to take place in playing the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. So we get different traits, and traits are just kind of effectively broken down for it. They really don't have any mechanical impact, but it's more for like your backstory, your background. Same thing with professions. And then, of course, we have the different powers. I will point out this playtest is mainly focused on combat. In fact, I was also very surprised how focused on combat this playtest is, because the reality is people love Marvel comics, not because of the fighting. Yes, granted, there's fantastic artwork, really cool fight scenes that you'll run across in classic issues. But what draws people in is the human element of the superheroes. That is what put Marvel on the map back in 1963 when Fantastic Four came out, and people were like, whoa, wait a second. They're superheroes and they bicker? They fight amongst themselves? That Batman and Superman don't fight. So people love Spider-Man, not because he can shoot webs and he can swing across Manhattan. They love Spider-Man because he's the perpetual underdog. And even when he's able to overcome the odds and succeed, there's always a flip side to that coin with something bad. People love that. None of that is present here. There's like reference, like there's a session 0, a few paragraphs written about session 0, and discussing with the players the sort of game that they want to play. I don't even know why it's included in this, because it's all about combat. It's all combat related. The example adventure, the introductory adventure that's at the end of this book, just a few pages long, and all it is really a tutorial for combat. So I understand combat has to be a big focus for superhero role-playing games. Powers must be a big focus of superhero role-playing games, but they should not be the end-all, be-all. Plus, we've already got umpteen different tabletop games with Marvel, licensed from Marvel. They're all basically combat. You've got HeroClix. You've got the Marvel Crisis miniatures, which are actually very cool-looking miniatures. There are a variety of different Marvel games out there that are combat-focused. So I was very surprised to not see any page space really whatsoever devoted to non-combat situations. Combat is pretty much action-based. It is based in rounds, so very, very similar, very familiar to people who've played almost any sort of role-playing game that's not specifically a storytelling role-playing game. So you have different actions that you can perform during your round. There are various different modifiers for combat. There's modifiers for the size of your target. There's actually a difference between smashing a hole through something and busting through something. You want to talk about crunch? Now that's crunch. That is the definition of crunch. So we do get our character creation section here. And we have a variety of different archetypes. And then, of course, we get our different tables for the ranks. The rank is kind of like level. So you'll have a character rank. You can also have ranks for your powers as well. So this is all the tables here that give you the breakdown of like the Bruiser, like the Rhino, the Genius, like Sherry, the Blaster, like Cyclops or Captain Marvel. Then we get into our backstories and traits. Once again, I thought this was kind of cool as far as if you're a big Marvel fan, because you see all these different traits. You're like, oh yeah, oh okay, so that's the Punisher. Oh yeah, that's Mr. Fantastic. Oh yeah, that's Daredevil. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Although the reality is this playtest seems to be aimed more towards fans of Marvel Comics as opposed to people who play role-playing games. It seems to go a little too heavy into the Marvel minutia as opposed to how do you run this game? How do you play this game? So, kind of surprised. So we have the different powers. We get some flowcharts, which kind of reminded me a little bit of the old TSR Marvel Superheroes role-playing releases that they had. I got to be honest, I never ran those. I never owned them. I actually did read through Phase Rip decades ago. So I was like familiar with how it ran, and very rules light. And it actually really did tackle many of the elements in superhero comics as well as combat. Yes, I understand there are people out there who's like, oh, okay, who's stronger, the Thing or the Hulk? Who's going to win in a fight? I get it. I understand. But that should not be the focus of the role-playing game. It should be something that is a focus, but it shouldn't be the only thing. So then we get into the power descriptions. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know exactly who Marvel Multiverse Roleplaying is aimed at. And it is aimed at the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons player and Dungeon Master. And there are a few things that make that very obvious. So we get the breakdown of the powers, and the powers look exactly like spell descriptions in D&D. Granted, these are small little stat blocks here. They really remind me of old school Renaissance, spells. AD&D spell descriptions. So that's one thing that kind of leads me to think, yeah, they're really looking to bring in those D&D players. Because let's be honest, Marvel wants some of that sweet, sweet D&D money that Hasbro gets. Marvel wants they want to dip their finger into that pie. Something else you'll see is the Marvel superheroes stat blocks. Very, very reminiscent of Dungeons and Dragons. And of course, Pathfinder, and because Pathfinder's actually derived from D&D. But yeah, that was something else I was kind of like, yeah. Something else, and I had mentioned this in the first look video. I was surprised that one of the credits they mentioned for Matt Forbeck is the Dungeons and Dragons Endless Quest books, which did not go over all that well. They were not all that well received. And I'm not trying to pick on Matt Forbeck. I'm just saying I'm very surprised that was a credit they used as opposed to, say, Deadlands or Brave New World, which is actually a superhero role-playing game that Matt Forbeck created, or any of the dozens of other role-playing game products that he's worked on. Unless you start to realize this is aimed squarely at Dungeons and Dragons players. Of course, hey, Matt's worked on Dungeons and Dragons. You like Dungeons and Dragons? Well, you're going to want to play this because Matt Forbeck's name is attached. Kind of the vibe I get a little bit with this. So you get a lot of different powers and that. That I was kind of surprised at how much of that we got. But once again, all pretty much geared towards just fighting. Then we get some example Marvel heroes. Some of their abilities don't seem to jive with their comic book personas. So Iron Man's more agile than Spider-Man? I don't know about that. So some of these don't come across right. So what can I tell you? But we actually get a fairly decent selection of superheroes. And then we get just like 3 pages devoted to the narrator, the game master in this case. And it's kind of funny because it's mainly aimed at the combat. Do you want to play on a map, on a grid, virtual tabletop? Is it theater of the mind? But it's all kind of aimed at the combat aspects. Then we've got our example adventure, which is just, as I mentioned before, one big combat tutorial. And if you're using the provided superheroes, they're going up against agents of Hydra, and some of those agents of Hydra are just the exact duplicate of the superheroes that you're playing as. Not too exciting. This is really, I gotta be honest, super bland. It's just a fight. Okay. Then we get a little glossary and index, and we get some tables that we're going to be utilizing, some reference material, and we get a little blurb about, hey, Marvel wants to know what you think. Give them your feedback. And that is the Playtest Rulebook. So let's swing on over to the other camera. I'm going to provide some other final thoughts as well about this rulebook. I got to be honest, I'm disappointed with this. First of all, let's talk a little bit about the actual production quality. The cardstock covers is fine. Paper inside, this is what you'd find in a comic. So quality-wise, this is pretty much what you would expect from a low prestige trade paperback for $10. That's effectively what this is. Also should mention, on the day this came out, the first errata came out as well, and it was 6 pages, and it was major errors. It was not simply, oh, please replace this phrase with this phrase or this word with that word. It was, hey, we completely gave the wrong archetype to a superhero. hey, replace that table with this table. So, and that was on release day. People hadn't even really gotten into this yet. So I get this to me, this is just kind of hurried. It feels hurried. It feels like somebody or a couple of somebodies should have eyeballed this one more time before this went to press, which is normally what would happen with a playtest that is not charging for the digital aspect of it. I mentioned in the first look video, I was very surprised to see that Marvel is charging the same exact price for the PDF as they are the physical book. I have no issue paying for a physical book of a playtest. It goes with the territory. But most major game publishers do not charge people for a digital edition of a playtest. They want to get it in as many people's hands, get them playing it, so they can pick those gamers' brains about what they're providing. We saw it with 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. It was called D&D Next at that point in time. Paizo Inc. did that with the 2nd edition of Pathfinder. They also charged for a playtest book, but the digital product was absolutely free. That is not the case here. Very surprised. Also very surprised. Cover artist gets credit. Back cover artist gets credit. There's a bunch of art throughout, which is kind of a mixed bag. Some of it's really cool. Some of it's just like, oh, that's a panel. The interior artists get no credit whatsoever. There's a bunch of playtester credits. There's additional credits, which are not the artists. I was very, very surprised by that the actual artists inside this book have absolutely no credit. The actual mechanics of the game, I think, are just going to be far too much busy work for most gamers. I've already pointed out, this is aimed at 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons players. That is exactly the audience that Marvel is looking to score. You're not going to score them with 3 6-sided dice. You just aren't. I am really surprised. And I get it. I understand. They want to do something a little bit different. And they didn't, obviously they don't want to go the way of an open game license. And I don't blame them. But you don't have to go OGL to use 20-sided dice. People love their 20-sided dice. And if you are aiming for the Dungeons & Dragons player, and also your Pathfinder players, got to have 20-sided dice. You have to have different sorts of dice. Your 10-siders, your 12s, your percentile dice. People love that. 3 6-sided dice is bland. It just is. It's just bland. Should also point out, there are a lot of excellent superhero role-playing games out there on the market. And there are some that have been around for a long time. There are some that actually have, I should say one, that ties in with DC Comics very nicely. Do I see people who play Champions or Mutants and Masterminds or the relatively new Sentinels Comics role-playing game from Greater Than Games, or if you're looking for Rules Light, the Tiny D6 Tiny Supers, which has been very popular. Do I see people who are playing those gravitating and migrating over to the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game? No, I don't. I really don't. Now, I know there are people out there who are going to say, well, these rules are awfully crunchy for the target audience for this kind of game. Well, the target audience isn't like 12-year-olds. It's like people think the target audience for comic books are like 12 and 13-year-olds. It's like, no. 12 and 13-year-olds, for the most part, don't have $50 and $75 a week in disposable income to go to their friendly local comic shop and pick up $4 and $5 issues or more every week. So comic book buyers are not little kids. Role-playing game players don't tend to be preteens either. So I can understand, it's okay that there's crunchy rules in here because this isn't really aimed at like 10-year-olds. It's not. But I think all the crunch is going to do a disservice to bringing people on board to the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. This could turn out to be really cool. It really could. And I would love to see the finished product when it comes out next year. And I would certainly hope that a hell of a lot more attention is paid to the aspects of comic books that created comic book fans, the human elements of comics, not just the bang, pow, zap aspects of the fights. All in all, I'm disappointed in this playtest. I was really thinking that this was going to be very cool. Marvel deserves to have an excellent role-playing game. And to be honest, that has never really happened in the past. Phase Rip is looked back upon, the TSR role-playing games are looked back upon with kind of rose-colored glasses. The nostalgia of them is actually better than the actual, end result. Although, I got to say, far, far rules lighter was Phase Rip. And a lot of people still love that aspect. There are kind of some quick nods to it in this. But I got to be honest, if I had been putting this together, I think I would have actually gone back to what was the most popular of the Marvel role-playing games, the TSR editions, and looked to modernize that as opposed to just creating another disposable D6-based system. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I got my fingers crossed that, Marvel does right. But I got a feeling they won't. So I got to be honest, I can't really recommend picking up this playtest. If at some point in time Marvel decides, hey, we're going to give you the PDF for free, definitely check it out. But spending $10 on a playtest for one, I don't think it's too cool to do that digitally. And I don't think this is all that great. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It will not only let you know when I upload videos such as this opinion video, because it's not a review. It'll also let you know when I stream my live show, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. Central, right here on YouTube. I do want to point out right now, as I record this, I am on a short hiatus, so the Dispatch will not return until April 25th. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you so much for taking time out to watch this video. And here's hoping each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. Check out the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, or find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks for watching.